Welcome back. I don't know why I feel like having an intro is so weird. Is welcome back good enough? It'll do for now. Okay, so I decided to stop being lazy and finish my book. This is my book, Fahrenheit 451 by Bradbury. And so let's just start because I've been putting this off long enough. I should just get it done while taking the proper time to make sure it makes sense. So I have my notes over here, so if I'm constantly looking in this angle, that's because my laptop is right here. Okay, so Fahrenheit 451 is a book about a firefighter, Guy Montag, whose job is to find people in houses who still own books, which is illegal, and burn their houses. So they'd like burn the houses and the books. We will also go over the most recent video, the one that came out in 2018. I haven't seen the original one. I might go back and watch it. There's some major differences between the movie and the book, which I don't appreciate. I hate when the movie is so drastically different from the book that it doesn't even really seem like the same storyline anymore. I mean, I guess I didn't watch the whole movie. I left like 30 minutes unwatched. I was like, this is boring. I don't like this. The book was so much better than the movie. Isn't that how it always is? Anyways, the characters in the book are Clarisse, who is Montag's neighbor, and she starts to make him wonder just kind of about why everything she's telling him clashes with what he's been taught his whole life. My bird has been picking at herself all day, so there's like bird dander everywhere, and I'm trying not to breathe it in. So if you see me like dodging stuff you can't see, it's pieces of feathers like floating in front of my face. I'm sorry. Okay, and then also in the book is Captain Beatty. It's spelled B-E-A-T-T-Y, which to me reads Beatty, but in the movie it's pronounced Beatty. There's also Montag's wife Mildred, who is, from what I read, a brain-dead sheep. Okay, so their whole walls are a TV. So like, take the wall behind me. That whole wall would be a TV. And she calls the people in the shows that she watches her parlor family, which makes me so sad. Like, I was relieved to find out she actually has some real friends. And then there's also Faber, an old English professor that Montag met one day in the park, and who he later turns to try to find a solution to the problem he's having. So when I started the book, I kind of just skipped through the introduction. I really don't care for it, but I don't really care for introductions in books or epilogues. I don't ever read those unless the book is like, it feels like it's unfinished. Sometimes I'll skim through them to see if I miss something. So right here they talk about, in the introduction, which is done by Neil Gaiman, it talks about how the book got its title, and he's talking about Bradbury. It said he called the Los Angeles Fire Department and asked them at what temperature paper burned. Fahrenheit 451. Someone told him he had his title. It didn't matter if it was true or not. The book was published and acclaimed. People loved the book and they argued about it. It was a novel about censorship, they said, about mind control, about humanity, about government control of our lives, about books. Alright, I didn't read this next part, but now I might have to watch the original movie. It says it was filmed by Francis Truffaut. Although the film's ending seems darker than Bradbury's, as if the remembering of books is perhaps not the safety net that Bradbury imagines, but is in itself another dead end. Okay. Hold on. So when I read the first line of the book, my first thought was, this guy is a pyromaniac. Turns out I was wrong. As always. So the first line of the book says, it was a pleasure to burn. Excuse me. And going into this book, I had little to no idea what it was about, so that's probably why that was my first thought. And the first kind of little paragraph of the book was, it was a special pleasure to see things eaten, to to see things blackened and changed, with a brass nozzle in his fist, with this great python spitting its venomous kerosene upon the world. The blood pounded in his head, and his hands were hands of some amazing conductor playing all the symphonies of blazing and burning to bring down the tatters and charcoal ruins of history. With his symbolic helmet numbered 451 on his stolid head, and his eyes all orange flame with the thought of what came next, he flicked the igniter, and the house jumped up in a gorging fire that burned the evening skies red and yellow and black. So he enjoyed watching things burn, which I'll admit, so do I. I think humans in general have a weird draw to fire, just like the way it destroys things. I don't know. That's kind of hard for me to explain. Hopefully you know what I mean. So for the few notes that I took, I didn't really want to go through a lot of the book because I want you guys to read this one. This book is really good. I don't want to spoil anything I don't have to. But, and another thing is his name is Guy Montag, but in the book he's only referred to as Montag. And like Captain Beatty, his first name is John. So I don't know why they're not referred to by first names. I don't know, it's just weird. But for me, it made sense that Montag would be a pyromaniac and then be a firefighter, because he would get to burn things and feel that need to see things burn, but not get in trouble because he's doing it legally. And that's their only job as firefighters, is to burn down people's houses that still owns books and stuff. I don't know what my family's doing. If you hear background noise, I'm sorry. So, my next note that I have is page 57, which is not that way, which right here. So I'll read it first, and then I'll kind of talk about what I thought it meant. So it says, colored people don't like Little Black Sambo. Burn it. White people don't feel good about Uncle Tom's Cabin. Burn it. Someone's written a book on tobacco and cancer of the lungs. The cigarette people are weeping. Burn the book. Serenity, Montag. Peace, Montag. Take your fight outside. Better yet, into the incinerator. Funerals are unhappy and pagan. Eliminate them too. 5 minutes after a person is dead, he's on his way to the big flu. The incinerator serviced by helicopters all over the country. 10 minutes after death, a man's a speck of black dust. Let's not quibble over individuals with memoriams. Forget them. Burn all, burn everything. Fire is bright and fire is clean. So, through government control, society and civilization has been taught to destroy anything that makes them question reality without a second thought. Like, they're just told, if you don't like it, destroy it, and it's gone, move on. Which I was like, no, that's not how things work. You should take time to explore your feelings and understand why you're feeling the way you do, and then once you're comfortable with the conclusion you came to, that's when you move on. So, the next thing I put down to go over is page 109. And this kind of ties back into that I said that I think humans are like drawn to fire. So, I'm probably going to be putting some pictures in here, so I'm going to scoot over in anticipation for that, and they're probably going to go here if I can remember to put them in. So, this is Captain Beatty talking to Montag. What is there about fire that's so lovely? No matter what age we are, what draws us to it? Beatty blew out the flame and lit it again. It's perpetual motion. Motion? Why? I can't read. I promise I can. It's perpetual motion. The thing that man wanted to invent but never did. Or almost perpetual motion. If you let it go on, it'd burn our lifetimes out. What is fire? It's a mystery. Scientists give us gobbledygook about friction and molecules, but they don't really know. Its real beauty is that it destroys responsibility and consequences. A problem gets too burdensome, then into the furnace with it. Now, Montag, you're a burden, and fire will lift you off my shoulders. Quick, clean, sure, nothing to rot later. Antibiotic, aesthetic, practical. So, This book to me is ironic that Captain Beatty is the fire captain, and he's the most avid against reading books, but somehow he knows the most about them. And every time Captain Beatty quotes something, and Montag's like, wait, how do you know that? He's like, oh, it's something I was taught in the academy when I was training to become captain. And Montag's just like, okay, yeah, that makes sense, okay. So on the notes I wrote, Captain Beatty knows the rules and hates books, but he knows more about them than anyone on the fire squad, which is true. And if I still have the pictures, I took them a long time ago when I started the movie. There's a scene, hopefully it's here, where Captain Beatty is at his house, and he sits down to his desk, and he takes out this really nice fountain pen, and he takes out a little tiny strip of paper, and he writes something on it, and then it cuts to him in his living room, and he has all these little strips of paper on a table, and he gathers them all into like a little flower, and he burns them. And I think what was on the paper was like quotes from books that he's read or memorized somehow. And there's a part in the movie where he tells Montag, you're not the first one to be curious about stuff like this. Like, it's happened before, it's normal to be curious, but it's not normal to let curiosity derail you from what you know to be right. And throughout this whole movie, Montag is having flashbacks to his father getting beat up for having books in his house, or beat up for showing Montag a book, or in the end, he gets arrested and taken away from Montag as a child. So, the next note I took happens to be on page 139. I guess I'm gonna read it. So, Montag has left the city for reasons you'll have to read to find out. If you'd like to know without reading, you can message me on Instagram. It's the same name you see on the video, on the YouTube page. I really, really do recommend this book, though. There's not a single thing about it I did not like, which is rare. Anyways, Montag comes up. He's like running through the forest, and he comes through this group of people, or comes up to them, and the book says, the fire was gone, then back again, like a winking eye. He stopped, afraid he might blow the fire out with a single breath. But the fire was there, and he approached it warily, from a long way off. It took the better part of 15 minutes before he drew very close indeed to it. And then he stood looking at it from cover. That small motion, the white and red color, a strange fire because it meant a different thing to him. It was not burning, it was warming. He saw many hands held to its warmth, hands without arms, hidden in darkness. Above the hands, motionless faces that were only moved and tossed and flickered with firelight. He hadn't known fire could look this way. He had never thought in his life that it could give as well as take. Even its smell was different. How long he stood he did not know, but there was a foolish and yet delicious sense of knowing himself as an animal come from the forest, drawn by fire. He was a thing of brush and liquid eye, of fur and muzzle and hoof. He was a thing of horn and blood that would smell like autumn if you bled it out on the ground. He stood a long, long time, listening to the warm crackle of the flames. So, this is my last note I have about the book. And into this, I go into the movie. So, okay, so, in the movie, a lot of things have changed. Montag isn't married. Oh, in the book, Clarisse disappears, and Mildred tells him that she was taken away and she's most likely dead. So in the movie, Clarisse isn't dead. Montag's wife is what makes him go downhill. She reports him as having books to the police department, and Montag has to burn his own house down. Intense. So for Mildred not to be in the movie is odd. Like, she's the whole reason, or one of the main reasons that Montag decides to abandon everything he's known Okay, if I sit at a certain spot, the lighting is not bad, but I don't want to sit this close to my camera. So if it's changing like a strobe light in a concert, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. Hopefully, if I can get a job after quarantine's over, I'm gonna get a ring light. That's gonna be like one of the first things I buy, is gonna be a ring light. So, another thing that changed in the movie is this phrase that pops up a lot called omnis. No one knows what omnis is. Maybe it's revealed in the end of the movie. I don't know. I didn't watch the end. Which I think it's a group of eels. That's what the people that are still into books are called in the movie. They're called eels. And they're trying to like overthrow the government and the fire department, who is determined to erase history through getting rid of books. I don't remember who it was, but there was someone in the movie that told Montag. What the heck? I just heard a random like bloop noise. Okay, I don't know what that was. There was someone who told Montag that the original firefighters put out fires instead of starting them. He goes home to ask his Yuxi, like a Google Assistant thing. Maybe I'll remember to put a picture of that here, if I can find one. If it was true, and she tells him no, but he doesn't quite believe her anymore. So in the movie, it shows, like in the beginning, it shows him putting in eye drops and taking like vitamins or pills or something, which I think were to keep him compliant. And one day he is going to put in his eye drops, and then he doesn't for some reason. I can't remember. It's been like a while since I've seen the beginning of the movie. So that's from there is when everything starts to change. So Captain Beatty goes out to start to question the eels, asking them what they know about omnis, but no one really seems to have an answer, or at least if they do, they're not willing to give it up. So now everything from this point on is the movie, only the movie. Montag begins to sneak to where Clarisse lives, and they start reading together at night, because Montag becomes just so interested and intrigued by books and how things are phrased. Oh my gosh, I just almost knocked my glasses off my face. And watching the movie just by myself, I called it. They do catch feelings. Montag and Clarisse become like this, inseparable, emotionally. So after he leaves her apartment, I wasn't quite sure where he was going, but he walks in on a group of blind people reading a book in Braille, and he walks up to them and he gently takes the book away, and he's like holding it like this, and he's like genuinely shook that something like this exists. And he's just looking at her like, what? So, and then like I've said, throughout this whole movie, Montag has been getting flashbacks to his father, who is also taken away for an interest in books, and his father was also a firefighter, so that might have been what Captain Beatty was saying, like, this happened to someone before you, it's okay. But it wasn't okay, because his dad got taken away. So, and then there's a scene in the movie where Montag is searching through a house of eels to look for books, and he stumbles into the bathroom, and there's a dad and a little girl cowering in the bathtub, and he decides to let them go. Like, he just slides the shower curtain over the tub and walks out and tells Captain Beatty, all clear, let's go upstairs. And right when they're about to turn to go up the stairs, one of them, either the father or the daughter, knocks over something in the bathroom. So I kind of skipped ahead after that. Captain Beatty, I don't know. Whatever I say, just know it's the same person, okay? He has them outside, and then it cuts to them back at the fire station. And Montag tells Beatty that he knew what he did was wrong according to the standards of the fire department. But since he's just so confused in who he is and like what he knows, and there's all these ideas in his head that don't make sense, he tries to resign. And Captain Beatty's just like, no, what you're experiencing is okay. Like, it's just a virus. You're sick. Go home and take a hot bath and sleep, and eat a good meal in the morning and come back tomorrow. So he takes his jacket and he leaves. But instead of going home, he calls Clarisse and tells her that he wants to go with them to the compound they're leaving to, because someone there wants to talk to him about Omnis. And then the lady who wants to talk to him about Omnis, who in the book was a man, tells Montag that the only way to truly preserve history is through books. And the only way to preserve books, which are at risk of being burned 24/7 in the story, is through memory. The people in the compound memorize the books, and then when they recite them, they themselves become the author. So I'm going to read it from the book, which is clearly what I prefer. So this is the person in charge of the compound. I don't remember his name, so we'll just read it anyways. So, what have you to offer? Nothing. I thought I had a part. Okay. So in the book, Montag wants to start getting these books copied, and he finds a book and he starts reading it. And it's later revealed that the book is a Bible, and so that's why Montag goes to favor the English professor, because he wants to get these books copied and put out so people can read this, because there's just something in the Bible that's resonating with Montag, and he knows that it's true, even though he's never been taught this before. Let me see if it'll, like, I can't focus. Okay, whatever. So, what have you to offer? Nothing. I thought I had a part of the book of Ecclesiastes, and maybe a little of Revelation, but I haven't even that now. The book of Ecclesiastes would be fine. Where was it? Here. Montag touched his head. Okay, the guy's name was Granger. Granger smiled and nodded. What's wrong? Isn't that alright? Said Montag. That should say asked. He asked a question. Better than alright. Perfect. Granger turned to the Reverend. Do we have a book of Ecclesiastes? One. A man named Harris in Youngstown. Montag. Granger took Montag's shoulder firmly. Walk carefully. Guard your health. If anything should happen to Harris, you are the book of Ecclesiastes. See how important you've become in the last minute? But I've forgotten. No, nothing's ever lost. We have ways to shake down your clinkers for you. But I was trying to remember. Don't try. It'll come when we need it. All of us have photographic memories, but spend a lifetime learning how to block off the things that are really in there. Simmons here has worked on it for 20 years now, and we've got a method down to where we can recall anything that's been read once. Would you like someday, Montag, to read Plato's Republic? Of course. I am Plato's Republic. Like to read Marcus Aurelius? Mr. Simmons is Marcus. How do you do? Said Mr. Simmons. Hello, said Montag. I want you to meet Jonathan Swift, the author of that evil political book, Gulliver's Travels. And this other fellow is Charles Darwin, and this one is Schopenhauer. And this one is Einstein, and this one here at my elbow is Mr. Albert Schweitzer. A very kind philosopher indeed. Here we all are, Montag. Aristophanes and Mahatma Gandhi and Gautama Buddha. I'm like butchering these names. And Confucius. That was very wrong. And Thomas Love Peacock and Thomas Jefferson and Mr. Lincoln, if you please. We are also Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Everyone laughed quietly. It can't be, said Montag. It is, replied Granger, smiling. We're book burners too. We read the books and burnt them, afraid they'd be found. So they've also read the books, memorized them, and then burned them. That way, even if they were found and burned, they would still have the contents of the book in their head. So, that's basically what the lady in the movie told him. I didn't watch past that. I turned it off and decided to film. So, I don't really appreciate when the movies change so far, like I said, from the book, especially when the book is written first. I think the book should be followed closely enough that they can't be identified as two different movies if they were looked at as two separate things. So do I recommend the book? Absolutely. Do I recommend the movie? At least not that one. If you only want to watch the movie, then yes. If you only want to read the book, maybe I suggest the first one. I don't know, maybe read the book, watch both movies, and then you can decide for yourself. Behind my laptop. The next book that I'm going to be reading, I've already started it. My sister let me borrow this book. It's called Out of My Mind. It's about a girl, 11-year-old Melody, who has a photographic memory. And she is crippled, disabled. Both of those are accurate, but I didn't know which one to use. So, I hope you guys are interested in this book. It's really good. I recommend reading it. I know the way I explained it didn't do justice to the content of the book, so please read it. Oh, excuse me. Please read it. If you have any books you'd like me to read, you can recommend them in the comments. If you have video ideas that are either faith-based or book review-based, then you can go ahead and recommend those too. Hopefully I'm running out of church songs that I like to recommend, so I'll have to find some of those. I think that's it. I don't think I have anything else to share with you guys today. What's today? Today's Monday, right? Okay, so I think that's it. I don't have anything else to share, so I hope you guys enjoyed this, at least a little, because I started over twice while filming because I forgot how to talk, or I just couldn't get it together, but I finally did. I'll see you guys in the next one.